When a referendum is called, it's too late to have the discussion. And then you have a panic discussion, and you could end up in a Brexit situation again where people don't have the knowledge. And the questions people want to ask is, will I be better off in the event of constitutional change? Will my family be better off? Will they be better off in the future? So this is, I suppose, what we are trying to do here in this. What really strikes me in listening to the contributions is the economic opportunity cost of partition. Not only now, you might say, looking at the South as a whole, well, we're okay. And the North, obviously, we have had deeper discussions there in terms of the failures there. But as somebody who comes from the West and the Northwest region, I'm looking at a region that is in the bottom 7% of the EU competitiveness index for infrastructure. So it isn't working for us either, the situation as it is. And that is part of why I, coming from the West and the Northwest, want things to change around that. So very much rather than looking at the two separate units, I want to envisage something new and something different where we have an opportunity here. And it really struck me a couple of weeks ago when we had the session on taxation and welfare. And our witnesses there were pointing out that we have never stood back as a state and looked at what are the kind of structures and systems that we want that will underpin our values as an Irish nation. We haven't had the opportunity to do that, but we now have the opportunity to do it. And that's why I think collectively these discussions are important in that sense. Now, I want to ask a few different things, if you like, but first it's in relation to the foreign direct investment. So I suppose that's one of the biggest differences between North and South as we are. And looking at the key drivers there, and we've had a fairly good discussion around education as being the driver, but I want to ask, I suppose, what other things in terms of foreign direct investment do we need? Or what might foreign direct investment look like in the event of reunification or constitutional change? So even in terms of the EU input and what that might be in how we would then be within the EU as a whole, obviously not just for goods but as services as well, and what that might mean, and what we may expect from the EU in terms of economic interventions there as well. What would it look like in terms of supply chains and procurement opportunities around that? And just the potential again, as I said, with the Northwest and the border region, would the economic potential of the North, if realised, have a spillover economic benefits for the Northwest and the border regions? We touched slightly on the ATU and the possibilities there with Magee, and coming from Mayo again, we have the Castlebar campus of the ATU, and linking that up with Magee, and I welcome the recent investment again into Magee there, but concentrating on medicine and those opportunities that again would deal with our labour force issues. And I want to ask you as well around the labour force issues, would we not be better off having a pool of labour which is from 7 million, a population of 7 million, rather than a population of 5 million there? On the education and the higher education, I think that I welcome the changes where we have now explicit in legislation here under the HEA bill that each of the HEIs are tasked with improving the North-South enrolment. And I really welcome Trinity, what they have done in recent times and set their targets as doubling. I know the figures are low, but they have set the target as doubling there. Maybe you'd speak to that. I just need to mention in terms of us creating that we have a wonderful education system here, and we have, but we have to be mindful that we have a 307 million gap in terms of our funding for higher education, so we must not lose sight of that. But we also have opportunities in terms of the National Training Fund and the over €1 billion that is there. So is there any reason why we couldn't have an apprenticeship that does part in the Shankill Road and part in Castlebar, say, for instance? What are the blocks there for us doing that? Sorry, I know I am going on a bit. Maybe I will just leave it at those things there, but I think you can tell, I think there's a huge excitement around what we can create here together. We have wonderful expertise on this island across all kinds of disciplines. We only have to look at the all-island cancer research, and what's been done there is absolutely fabulous. So if you could maybe speak to a couple of those things in terms of our opportunities, that would be great. Thanks.